Hello, everyone, and welcome to another very special edition of our Culturama series. Let's clink cups.
Clink and drink.
And I have the privilege today of introducing none other than Don Gaynor from distant nearby Idaho. What part of Idaho?
We are in like Cascade, Idaho, and like when we get out of Cascade, that's where the studio is. So when we're snowed in the winter, we get a lot of records made.
That was no job for me.
You know, well, when you called, it was beautiful and sunny when we left. So
wow. Don and I met on the internet through Facebook. I'm not giving him a special plug, but Don has a career, a distinguished career as a musician. But first you began, when you were a little boy, what did you dream of becoming initially? What was your hope and aspiration?
Wow. Well, for me, it's been very simple. When I was doing a test or anything else in school, I never realized how fast time flew in my head. I could do a whole 3 or 4 minute song in my head and use my drums as my teeth as a click track. And 4 minutes would go by while I hadn't solved the problem on the page yet. So I knew from a very early age that I was a writer. I was writing in my head.
Good writer.
Yeah, you don't just sit down to write a song. You write all the time.
Were you pretty good in English compositions?
No. I'm still getting better at that. I take even my Facebook messages very seriously, so I can work on my punctuation.
Oh, okay.
And grammar.
Dots and dashes, yes.
Yes. Well, I don't use like the U for the U. I actually spell everything out now. So.
I have a friend called Andrea, and I taught her you could use the and sign as an abbreviation, and REA.
That's what I thought too. I thought you could abbreviate everything, but sometimes things can get really lost in translation. I found out.
Try supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I can't spell it. No. Okay, IT. I just spelled it.
Okay. So did you grow up you were born in Idaho or where?
No, I'm an Army brat. My parents were born in
Germany.
And they were married in Idaho, in Coeur d'Alene, but I came along in '62, Nuremberg, Germany.
Yes, famous trial site. And that's sort of on the western part of the country?
We just looked up Nuremberg Hospital where I was born, and it no longer exists. So,
but you exist. That's
here.
important. Yeah.
I'm here. I'm an American original, born overseas in times of peace.
So, let's go back a few centuries to your high school days. Were you involved in music at that stage?
Yeah, at Marysville Pilchuck, we were the largest high school in Washington State at the time, and I came from a little junior high, very small. But we did have a Hall & Oates concert, which changed my life. I remember 1978.
Tell us about it.
We were in the gymnasium at Lakewood Junior High, and we had, with the whole competition for all the schools, managed to rapper everybody for a Carefree Sugarless Gum rapper drive for a chance to win Hall & Oates concert, right? So they changed my life. They came to my tiny gym. For some reason, my little high school collected more Carefree rappers than anyone else, and we met Hall & Oates, and it changed my life. The duo format just changed my whole world.
Was he your primary role model example, or were there others along the way?
Oh, there are many. My father.
Let's give him credit out there. I'm sure they're all tuning in and listening, so credit to time.
My dad, obviously growing up with Bob Dylan the way he did, and the influences on my musical career go all the way back. And for me, everything starts with Buddy Holly, and it just continued on from there for me.
Among the Bob Dylan songs, do you have a favorite, or one that you kind of like to emulate?
Yeah, I do Maggie's Farm. I like
Maggie's
that song.
Farm.
It's to me, it's like just that. It's like our first rap song. You know, the way he lays it out.
Now, in high school, were you part of a band there, or orchestra, or more of a consumer of music?
I went in high school to be part of the all-state, all-Northwest choir. And what happened was I made my first Black Licorice Pizza album in 1980 in Mount Hood, right here, and north of here. And that day was Sunday.
That was a natural high.
It was 1980. Mount St. Helens was about to erupt when we left Mount Hood to head back to my hometown of Marysville.
Yes.
It was May 18th. Sunday morning at 7:30, we loaded onto a bus and headed back on I-5 North, and at 8:40, the mountain blew. And it changed my life. I didn't care about school or anything else after that.
Marysville was right near the volcano?
No, I was on a bus passing on I-5, coming from Mount Hood that day.
Man, oh man.
And nothing else mattered after that.
So you could kind of say you're living on borrowed time to some extent?
I thought so. You know, I know it changed my direction, and I wanted to get out of the volcano's path. Yeah. There's something that 36 years ago.
You don't being called hot stuff, but not that hot.
It was amazing to see 25 miles of a mountain just blowing off in front of you. Yeah.
Let's switch gears. How is your own temper these days?
I don't know. I think I blew up just the other day, but it takes a lot. I think I only get upset about things that I'm passionate about.
Sure, that tends
Everything else, you know.
So tell us about some of the things you're passionate about, Don.
Oh,
for example,
my favorite charities. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
I'm a music therapist by trade, so you know, as a solo performer who can play a guitar and sing, I like to bring music into people's lives, especially that can't get out to a concert.
Yes,
that's one of my favorite things to do.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about the make-believe wheelchair with music that I invented in my mind, but tell us about what kind of music you got oriented toward. Of course, we're going to, in a few minutes, we'll hear you do your gig, but let's give a preview to our friends at home, the viewers there.
Yeah, I think for me, music starts in the church because that's where you first learn sound or what you can do with your voice in a group. And so for me, growing up, I remember hearing my dad so many parties, you know, and you know, we had to listen to these great records. We couldn't just, you know, look it up on YouTube and figure it all out, you know.
Before that era.
So we listened like thieves, and I can remember being very impressed by just watching and wanting to play any kind of rhythm in my dad's groups growing up.
Let me ask this just as a side thing. Are there any things for Father's Day coming up where your kind of music could fit into a concert as a theme?
Sure. There's a Father's Day song that I love to sing. There's a couple of them. One is by David Gates and Bread. It's called Everything I Own, and David wrote it about his father. So usually Sunday's Father's Day, and I like to perform that too.
Would you want to do that today or another time?
Oh, maybe when we warm up a little bit, I'll do a little bit of it.
The only one I remember, and it's Eddie Fisher. I'm sure you know the song "Oh My Papa." To me, he was
my papa, you bet.
Yeah, he was married to Liz Taylor for a short stint between husbands.
Yes.
They call it interstices, little cell formations in between.
I'm sure.
I know, I'm teasing you.
Well, music influence for me is anything good, really. I mean, if it can be the singer-songwriter generation, it's not that I'm stuck in any era because I play 5 decades of hits, but when it comes to a guitar, that's my instrument. I mean, I'm not going to be turned on. As much as I love Elton John and just got to see him recently, I'm not a piano player, so you know, I know that I wouldn't want to be Elton John's guitar player and have 14 different guitars to change in a show. But
challenging.
I like music that is played on one instrument with a voice, and I record the same way.
I'm going to just throw in something for a little amusement, but by background, I'm a gerontologist, fancy word for people who deal with aging issues. And back in around 1990, before the baby boomers came of age, I came up with this cockamamie idea for the wheelchair of the future. This would be geared to people who grew up in the early rock and roll era and are now sitting in wheelchairs, and it would have earphones on the side of the wheelchair and attached to a special kind of, I wouldn't call it a keyboard, but a monitor, a dashboard, and the person would then key in their favorite song from the rock era, and then the chair would actually bounce their behind in synchronization so they could kind of relive the bumps and grinds of their younger days.
I love it, the game chair.
Yeah, it'll be a geriatric phenomenon.
Well, it's not just for geriatrics because I broke my ankle. And I'm getting back after a year of a lot of pain, and I have a lot of help getting back on my feet.
Yeah, that can be rough.
But yeah, I could have used a nice wheelchair with some nice monitors. You know, get my YouTube right there.
Terrific. Terrific there. And
that's another passion of mine, is people, like I said, who, you know, are in hospice. Or I had a guy one time that had a feeding tube removed for 17 days, and he sang the midnight special with me after starving, you know.
wow, Don.
And they unplugged him, and he, even at the end, you know, I still get choked up because he was a strapping Snohomish football player, you know, and what a truck can do.
Okay. Let's ask what you do in other parts of your life. Besides, your life is largely music, but you have other little nooks and crannies that in your everyday thing.
Well, after a 40-year career, we have a head start in a lot of things. I find that our company has so many different divisions that if something is slow in one area, you can always move over to the art department. There's plenty to do, so to speak. And
visual art.
Sure, you have to get all of these facets. You know, gone are the days when, you know, somebody's going to walk up to you with a big fat cigar and say, "We want to make you a star." You know, you have to be an integral part of your own success these days.
Ain't no reality show like that.
No.
Yet.
No.
Yeah. Were you or are you active in any sports? Ankle notwithstanding?
Yeah, matter of fact, I'm getting back into my basketball kind of workouts again, because I used to be able to hit the three.
you and Mr. Jamal.
I tell you, hitting a three in any league feels the same when you win by one.
Wow.
You know.
Did you do basketball early on as a teenager?
Yeah, I was told by the Phoenix playground that I have no defense and no shot, and that was 1979. So I think I've been trying to improve that every day, you know, every year.
Hoopsters Anonymous.
That's right. And of course, my big passion is football.
Who's your team?
Well, I have to say, all the way from 1976, I was just an impressionable kid when the Seahawks got their first franchise. So Jim Zorn and Steve Largent taught me a lot.
Hawks.
He said, do the mundane day in and day out with purpose, and that's exactly what it takes to be a recording artist. So.
If you were a football player yourself, what position do you think you'd find yourself in?
Oh, I would have to work out with the defensive backs for sure. A la Earl Thomas because of the footwork, but I've always fancied myself as a quarterback.
Let's see those shoulders for me.
I'm the armchair quarterback on Sundays for Russell Wilson.
You want to mention a little bit about what happened with your ankle injury and how that came about and what you're doing to get rehabbed?
Yeah, I got pulled off a tour February last year just because I was out exercising, and I came back from a long run, and I put my feet up in the sun. And in Washington State, you don't get that many sunny days. So I kind of had my feet up, and all the blood drained out after my run. And I stood up, and I was wobbly, and I stepped on my own shoelace twice and snapped it inside my high tops while I had my hands behind my chair trying to scoot it into the sun. So
that ain't no fun footnote.
And it really hurt, and I laid there on the ground in so much pain, and now I can hit a jump shot again. So
yay, team!
It's been about a year. So we're gearing up. We're going back out on tour. I'm selling my new record. It's a compilation album called Tea in a Coffee Town. Basically, it's just me writing a new song to legitimize old work that I hadn't seen in 12 years. So
let's give the audience an access place. You have a website, and it's called what?
Well, I personally do a lot of private messaging on Facebook, and that's about it, because that's about the only thing I can count on the road. These phones and stuff, the technology is just, it's just not
So
there.
if they go to Facebook, what do they look up to get to you?
CAPS, Creative Arts Program Services, and
caps.org.com, what?
Yeah, that would just be .com.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
caps.com. Paul.
Creative Arts Program Services.
Creative Arts Program Services. Write it down in your legal yellow pad, your illegal white pad.
I think that's the place that we can get my music too. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Numubu Live.
Now you have a link on so people could get samples of your music?
I believe there is Numubu out there. Yeah, I was, Rob Taylor kind of hooked me up through Roger Fisher's telling me about it, and I think we got some stuff up there for people.
Now I'm going to ask you a kind of a sideline type question. musicians, like everybody else, need some energy when they're on the road. What is your, I wouldn't say favorite junk food, but what is your favorite energy type food that you kind of snack on when things seem to be a little wobbly?
Chocolate and almonds.
Chocolate and almonds. Go
And
nuts.
always tea. I can't go wrong with tea, except for white. I can't wear any white because you know those lids. They wreck every white
gotcha.
thing I ever wear.
Okay. What do you hate eating? I never asked that question before.
I really hate eating calories. I mean, don't we all? I mean,
Some-
everything's got calories in it.
Some
and
people think that excess and success equals the same, and they find out later, and it makes some cardiologists rich with an extra Cadillac at their expense.
That's very true, and you know, there's no profit in cure, unfortunately. So we have to, you know, every time I see food now, I think Laura's going to make me work that off. So
Tell the audience who Laura is.
Laura is the one that got me back on my feet through my company. They hired her to come in and make sure that I can take the stage again and stand. You know?
Okay.
So she's Laura Pierce from actually she's a transplant originally from Idaho, but she just came back from her time in the San Juan. So it's nice to have a local
She resurfaced.
Washington girl working me out in
Okay.
Idaho.
Now, I love to ask guests who are achievement-oriented in their own field, and we're going to address this to people out there who are young and zestful and are thinking and following in your shoes. What steps would you recommend that they need to take in order to climb the rung of getting there as a musician, as a guitarist or
That's it.
vocalist, what have you?
That's the best question because it's the hardest one. It's different for
Yeah.
every single person. You know, some people have a lot of support in their life. Others are runaways like myself and had no support. So I think the basic thing is to make sure that you follow your dreams because you have to do what you love to do every day. Otherwise, you probably won't get to it. And if you can find things that you know, never keep your guitar in a case. Okay, if you're a guitar player, keep it by your chair. That way, when a commercial comes on or something, you can always get better, but you won't if you don't take it out of the case and
Right.
actually do
It's
it.
like a muscle atrophying.
Very
sort
much
of.
so.
Yep.
And when I was young, in order to get my attention, my parents would restrict me from my guitar up to a month, sometimes 2, to teach me a lesson, whatever it was. And I learned that when you're trying to do words and chords at the same time, not always a good thing because you got 2 different competing things going on in your brain. So what would happen is the song of the moment became very important to me, and then I would not have the guitar to play, let's say. I was on restriction from it. I would have to learn everything in my head first. That's the most important thing, so that when you actually pick up the instrument, you don't have 2 things going on. You pretty much, one's on autopilot, and then you can just concentrate on chords. That's how I do it.
Precisely.
And you don't, the other thing about writing is you don't write a song one day. You don't just sit down and say, I'm going to write. You write every day.
You keep active, even if it's not your perfect specimen. It keeps you, gives you the momentum.
Well, I never
go
finish a
forward.
song until I'm in the studio because with all the setup, you know, on a
Yeah.
TV crew like this, there's
Definitely.
always time to finish a song in the studio. So I pretty much just have outlines in the studio with me. Nothing really finished.
Is it harder these days, genders notwithstanding, for a boy musician or a girl musician to make it?
Well, I wish I had breasts. That would help, you know. Maybe I did before she worked
I don't
me
know.
out, but
You ready for a
yeah, I
transplant?
think women just have it all over men when it
Oh,
comes
really?
to pitch and when it comes to grace and character. I just happen to love women, so when I see them perform well, a Carrie Underwood is just
Turns you on.
incredible to me. In that sense, yeah, that you know they're the real deal, and you can hear it, and they worked hard. So yeah, I think men particularly get caught up in what they think is popular or somebody might want to hear. You kind of got to be true to what you can do. For me, I'm the harmonica player of guitar players. I have so many guitars tuned to a different half step each way that if I'm tired vocally, I'm going to make sure I pick up a guitar that's going to make my song look good, and I'm not going to be able to outplay that key
Okay.
with my voice.
How many guitars do you have? At the latest census count, roughly.
Probably 9 or 10 with
Okay,
me
that's
on tour.
Pretty good. Okay. Enough for a whole baseball team, 9.
Well, yeah. It's
Strum along.
takes a whole metro bus to get them over.
Okay. Okay. Any closing thoughts for people who are consumers of music? What do they have to listen to in order to tune up their ears and tune down their fears?
Great questions. I think we as musicians have to listen like thieves. We do borrow from everything. I think when I make a record, like Joe Walsh said, he says, you know, we make our records, we play them live, but then we have to learn our records later. That's the same concept as how you learn a song that you liked off of an old record or a CD, is you put it on and you actually study the song. So study is very important.
Okay, yeah. Let's get you into your first song. What are you going to play and how would you like to introduce it, Don?
Well, this is about my 40-year career in Seattle, Washington. I love my fans up there, and I love the Northwest. And I went away to make this record and heal my ankle. And I felt like I needed something new to bring out all of the old stuff that I'd kind of lost. I hadn't had copies of, rather. So this Tina Coffeetown song is kind of legitimizing the release of the catalog, and I'd like to play that for you now.
That's it.
My grassroots team just hit the ground running, full of hopes and schemes, and I'm just not that stunning. Having quite a year, though. You and me were talking about this space between us feeling long. Practice don't make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. You can practice something wrong and it's still wrong. This song, ooh, wouldn't you like to be where there's only room for you and me around, around? We're tea in this coffee town. Wouldn't you like to go where there's only room for one more soul around now? We will be together, you and me, for the only cup of tea in this coffee town. Let's talk it over, cut things breakfast, and chat it up over, cup of constant coming, and feelings quite sincere. Oh! You and me were talking, this pleasure to depression's robbing joy. Joy comes in the morning, trouble without a warning. So never let it rob your morning joy. Ooh, wouldn't you like to be where there's only room for you and around, around? For tea and a coffee town, wouldn't you like to go where there's only room for one more soul around, around? Wouldn't you like to be where there's only room for you and me around, around? We will be together, you and me, for the only cup of tea in this coffee town.